Hi there, everybody. My name is Alicia Krupski-Hook, and I'm the program coordinator at the Community Foundation. We're here today to do our grant evaluator orientation for Growing Together, an LGBTQ plus fund. This is our grant making cycle for 2026. Thank you so much for being a part of this process. We really appreciate the care, the time, and the perspective that you bring to the evaluation process. It's so important to have our community voice as part of the evaluations. So this video is really to let you know what to expect during the process. We're going to walk through how to log in, what you're going to see once you log in, and then how to approach the applications. Right now, we have about 7 applications that have been submitted. We're still accepting applications through tomorrow, so we might get a few more, but that's around what you can expect to see. So let's talk about accessing the portal. You're going to receive an email from administrator@grantinterface.com with a link to the evaluation portal. So you can follow that link, and you're going to see a login page that looks like this. Okay, so you can use your email address to and password to log in. If you haven't yet created a login for this interface, you can just click on "Forgot your password" and follow the prompts. It'll allow you to create your own. So once we log in, here's what we're going to see. Each applicant is going to see a list of assigned applications. This training purpose, I only have one, but you're going to see several all the way down. Now, over here on the right-hand side, you're going to see continue if you've already logged in to this application. But most of you, for the first time, are going to see start all the way down the line. One of the things that's cool about this portal is that you can save your work, leave, and then return to continue evaluating. So that's when you're going to see this continue button. For each application, you're going to hit start or continue. And here's what you're going to see. So on the left side, you've got your evaluation. On the right side, you've got your application. So you can be looking at both pieces side by side as you evaluate. And you can toggle those if you'd like to switch them for viewing. So the first thing to know is that if you have a conflict of interest with the organization, that means that if you or a direct family member stands to benefit from the award of this grant, we ask that you recuse yourself. Just because you know somebody who works at the organization, that doesn't necessarily create a conflict of interest. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out and we can talk through it. If you hit yes, I do have a conflict of interest, will immediately bump you out of the current application and you can move on to the next one. But once you hit no, the rest of the evaluation form is going to appear and you can continue with the evaluation. Another thing to know, all of these applications have already been pre-screened for eligibility. That means they serve San Luis Obispo County. They serve the identified population for this grant. They have current status as a 501c3 charitable organization. We've taken care of all of those pieces ahead of time. So what you're really reading for is quality and alignment and impact. Now, you'll see this first question come up as budget. You don't need to read or evaluate this one first, and in fact, I recommend you go back to it. Because we're reading for a project or a program specifically, in this case, when we talk about budget, it's the project or program budget that I encourage you to look at. And this is really going to be, once again, not for eligibility, but really if this budget raises any concerns or questions that you might want to address during the evaluation process. Next, it's going to show you our evaluation rubric. And here you can toggle the application on the other side as well. Project name, project name. Okay, let's look at project details. That's what's going to come up first. Let's take a look first at our evaluation rubric. We're using a scoring system from 1 to 5, and then we're also giving you the opportunity to include comments to show more context around that score. So for each of these questions, you're going to see a rating scale. 1 being the lowest, 5 being the strongest. 1 is really quite unclear. 2, some information, but it's limited. 3 is moderate, kind of meets the expectations of what you're reading for. Strong is strong. And very strong really demonstrates a deep understanding of the subject matter and the community that's being served. Um, this ranking system will be for every single question, followed by your optional evaluator notes. It can really come in handy during our evaluation and funding recommendation discussion. So first thing you're going to read for is the project details. What is the project that they're proposing? And one of the things you're reading for is really feasibility. Do we think that this organization is well equipped to implement the program around timeline, staffing, volunteering? So you're going to read this for really, can this program be implemented? Next, we have centering voices and perspectives of communities served. What this is really about is ensuring that the proposed program or project is informed by the community that it is built for, it's built to help. With each question, I'm giving you some things to consider. In this case, does the organization actively seek feedback? Is their lived experience meaningfully involved in the program design? Does the application demonstrate community feedback and how that informs the programs and the services and the practices? And is this engagement ongoing, intentional, or is it just kind of a one-time thing that they are doing for one specific program? So all of this will inform your decision making. Here with our ranking scale, I give you a little bit more context for how to select your response. And then here are your evaluator notes. Okay, next year we're going to be looking at utilizing substantiated data. What this piece is about is identifying the information that is shaping both the need for this project and then also how it's implemented around best practices, most current data available. We also want to address access to inclusion. So how well is this organization identifying and addressing barriers to participation? One of the things we're requesting here are some specific examples of how they're doing that. Same rating scale, optional evaluator notes. And then finally, and this one's very important for a field of interest fund, is alignment with Growing Together's funding priorities. This year we have 3. We've got access to affirming care, youth safety and support, and community connection and joy. We have some bullet points of examples of what we mean about these funding priorities. And these are the same bullet points that were shared with our applicants as well. So our evaluators and our applicants are looking at the same pieces of information and criteria. Once again, we provide some things for you to consider while you're reading and more details around the rating scale, finally with your optional evaluator note. This is the last question around evaluating the applicants by question. The next piece is your overall recommendation. And here's why it's important. Throughout the application, we request that you base your scoring on what is provided just in the application. Many of us have knowledge of the organizations that we are reading for kind of outside what this application is stating. But for consistency, we want to be able to focus in on specifically the application for specific ranking. However, this final section is really important because it provides some more personal and community context that you may have to add to the conversation. So you'll have the opportunity to give your overall placement with this application. How do you feel it ranks overall? And then you can also provide some overall reflections here. One of the reasons why this is important, as I mentioned, is that you might have some context or questions outside of what's provided in the evaluation that you want to discuss, outside of the application that you want to discuss with the rest of the evaluation committee. This might be information that you happen to have learned about this organization outside of the application. It might also be a comment on the application itself. For example, not all organizations have a professional grant writer on staff. So perhaps the application isn't very professionally written, but there's a strong case for support because this program, is well implemented and deeply needed. So there's where we can build up both the qualitative and the quantitative data that helps us make an informed funding recommendation. And that is the end of each evaluator form for each application. Here are a few things to consider while you're reading. You can plan for about 30 minutes per an application. It might become a little bit shorter as you get more used to what this process looks like. Um, One thing to keep in mind is that many evaluators will read through all the applications first and then go through and start scoring them. That's because you might find that in the beginning of the process, you're scoring a little easier or a little harsher, and then towards the end of the process, you have more context of the whole applicant pool. So some folks like to do it that way. You're going to find the way that works best for you. Things to remember, make sure to save your work as you go and to hit submit on each evaluation once it's complete. So in closing, once again, I want to thank you for participating in this important evaluation process. If you have any questions along the way, I would be happy to speak with you, work through those questions. My email address will be included at the end of this video. You're welcome to reach out at any time. And know that your evaluations really directly shape the funding decisions that are going to go right back into our community for LGBTQ plus people and families in San Luis Obispo County. So thank you once again for being a part of this process. And I look forward to meeting with you in person at the Community Foundation on August 12th, where we will have a compilation of all of our scores and be able to have a meaningful and thoughtful discussion around our funding recommendations. Thank you so much and take good care.